right, I think and we're set. So welcome to our June 6th Rainbow Cup team reviews. Um, yeah, we're gonna have Polly and Tostel go over the submitted teams, and yeah, go ahead, guys. We're gonna go ahead and start with Scary's team.
So Scary's team is first. Just lost it. Okay, the team is Quagsire, Mantine, Azumarill, Venusaur, Charizard, and Lantern. So it's that standard Quagsire, Venusaur that I think we're going to be seeing. Venusaur, Charizard, and Lantern. They've got Lantern for an electric, and they're running double flying with Mantine and Charizard to help combat the grass types as well as Fortress. So the biggest thing I'm seeing off the bat is that the team doesn't handle Quagsire that well, in my opinion. Especially a Sludge Bomb Quagsire. Sludge Bomb and Stone Edge are going to give this team some problems. What do you think, Paulie?
Yeah, I think the double flyers is pretty interesting. I'm wondering if they have anything about moveset on there. Do they say like whether it's wing attack or bubble?
I'll try to find it. Oh, Scary. I see you're typing. Can you just type out what your moveset is?
Yeah, it doesn't look like Scary has his moveset written out when he posted the team before.
Yeah.
It looks like he's typing, or he was typing in the chat, so we'll wait for him to answer. But I mean, I think double flying is definitely relevant. I think you can make it work, but I think if you're gonna do that, and then he has the Azumarill and Lantern, which also double up on some of the same targets. So I think on some of the same targets. A better play might be because it's kind of doubling up in like both of those areas. Because like Azumarill does beat most of the beats like the water and the like a lot of waters, fires and flyers, which is kind of similar to Lantern's job. So maybe either dropping one of the two, Azumarill or Lantern, or dropping a flyer in favor of something that counters Quagsire better.
Right. And another thing I'm kind of seeing is like both of its answers to grass are really flying. Like they don't really have that either confusion user or fortress spot. So I mean that might hurt. It's just nice to have that as an option so that they don't, I guess, get comfortable pairing Venusaur with something that can cover both of those options really well.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, especially because like if their opponent brought like a Raichu, for example, Raichu's going to deal with basically the whole team besides Quagsire and Venusaur.
Right. And so then they're sort of left, either having only one option against Raichu in their three, or being stuck bringing Quagsire, Venusaur. Which that's a strong core, but it's just nice to have like another option that's like a grass counter that can sort of hit back some of the electrics, in like the right situation, like Fortress, with shields down and Earthquake, or Executor, which can cover Venusaur, but also can wall, the electrics.
What? You're not hungry? You don't want anything?
Okay, so they posted movesets. It looks like they're running Bubble, Ice Beam, Aerial Ace on the Mantine. And they're running Sludge Bomb, Stone Edge on the Quagsire, Ice Beam, Play Rough, and Azu. And then Standard for the other sets.
Okay. I mean, I think that's possibly even a bigger concern for grass, right? Because bubbles sort of it can be tricky depending on your defensive stat. Um, it's like it's not as clean of a win as say like a wing attack where you don't have IVs in play quite as much.
Right, yeah. So like the only like for sure win against an opposing Venusaur is going to be their Charizard then.
Right.
Like you said, I mean the Mantine is going to generally win, but it's not like such a sure thing.
Yeah, and I mean I do really like Bubble Mantine. I just think having that other, whether it's a confusion user or fortress, it just makes it a little bit more difficult for your sort of figure out what they can keep in the back in terms of like say an electric for example.
Right, so you're saying maybe drop one of Azumarill or Lantern in favor of a fortress.
I'd say
Oh.
you could drop, like you could keep Azumarill in favor of, or you could keep Azumarill and drop like Mantine, for example.
That's true.
Yeah, or you could drop Charizard if they're comfortable with that Mantine. The bubble. Like I would just make sure the IV's good on that bubble Mantine.
I mean, another interesting play is they could keep the Mantine because like it does give some interesting coverage, especially with Bubble, and then drop the Charizard in favor of a Ninetales because that gives you that fire coverage for like Venusaur and Fortress, but it doesn't come with the electric weakness.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe like a double change where they drop the Charizard for a Ninetales, and then maybe drop the Azumarill for a Fortress. Something like that, maybe.
Yeah, that could work. Yeah, so then your bubble Mantine is sort of serving as that water roll that you can kind of play that sort of based on the matchup a little bit, but it's not it doesn't become predictable as much.
And they have the Mantine and the Lantern that are both like pseudo water, but also covering it, also like providing an additional type.
Right. Exactly.
And then they have both the Mantine and the Ninetales, which can be used to like counter Venusaur, for example. But you're not bringing two things that are both weak to electric, so that helps you become a little harder to deal with. And then you have like the Mantine as a softer counter, plus the Fortress and the Ninetail as answers for a Venusaur. Or Fortress, I guess. So I think that gives a little more flexibility, and like you said, makes it less predictable.
Yep, I agree. And I mean, if dust cost or something like that is an issue, I mean, I think you can get away with, like any one of those changes probably, and still be solid.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to mention, Justin, before we move on to Scarlord's team?
I think that's good. Yeah. Do you want me to take this one? I mean, I can.
Yeah, so it's Scarlord's team, but I guess he submitted 2 teams, so hold on. He wants the team with Slowbro in it.
Okay, so that's the second one?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to jump down to there? Or did you want to cover that with the other Slowbro team? I guess there's one that's identical or very similar.
Oh wait, I only see one team on the spreadsheet for Scarlord at this point.
It's like blue. It's highlighted.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So yeah, go for it.
Okay, yeah. So that one's Quagsire, Slowbro, Venusaur, Ninetales, Electabuzz, and Fortress. So they have Electabuzz for their electric coverage. They have Fortress, and Ninetales is their grass counters, as well as Slowbro for the poison subtype grass, and then Quagsire, Venusaur. So no flyer here, which is interesting.
Right, but I don't think you necessarily need a flyer because because
I
the
agree.
flyer with that Ninetales rule are kind of interchangeable, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And then they have that Fortress for that secondary grass coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm a little worried about how they're gonna deal with Quagsire.
Yeah.
Because isn't one of the main differences between Slowbro and Slowpoke that Slowpoke is able to beat Quagsire, but Slowbro doesn't?
So Slowbro can.
He only gets his shields down.
Yeah, it's just right. Like Slowpoke basically can win against some Quagsires, even shields up with, depending on the IVs, basically.
And then I'm also looking at movesets. They're running Stone Edge Acid Spray on their Quagsire. Fire Spin Flamethrower on the Ninetales. And Earthquake plus a second move on the Fortress. So that's even more worrisome then because they're running Acid Spray on their Quagsire. That means that they would lose the mirror to an opposing Earthquake Quagsire.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, basically they just have Venusaur. He just has Venusaur.
Yeah, which is a little worrisome in my opinion. Because, a smart opponent, if they're able to trap your Venusaur, then their Quagsire can kind of just sweep you from there.
Yep. Yeah, not to mention, I mean,
Two Venusaur counters.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, just protect the Quagsire, and make sure you can take care of the Venusaur, and then Quagsire can potentially sweep. Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem. That's what I was about to say, is that you sort of become predictable. Like you have to bring Venusaur.
Yeah.
And I mean they won't know that they have the advantage in the mirror, the Quagsire mirror, but they might after match one, and you'll definitely know that and feel like you have to bring Venusaur.
Right, but also, I mean, if they're running Earthquake, they know they're at worst gonna tie the mirror, but if not, then they're gonna win the mirror. So if they are running Earthquake, they're assuming at least a tie, if not a win in that matchup.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so Justin or Mason, what changes would you guys suggest?
I know he wanted to incorporate Azumarill, or at least he made a comment saying that he'd like to incorporate Azumarill. I said if he had to make a replacement for Azumarill, I'd say he'd throw it in there for Slowbro. I mean, if he really liked Azumarill.
I mean, he could do that. I don't know if that helps his Quagsire matchup.
I mean, it wouldn't help all that much, but I'm saying he wanted to throw it in there. He said, what, if any, can I drop for Azumarill? And if he had to drop one, I'd say it'd be Quagsire, or not Quagsire, Slowbro.
Slowbro. I mean, the alternative is he could drop Electabuzz, because Azumarill covers a lot of the same things that Electrics do. Like Azumarill is gonna wall Charizard, it's gonna beat Mantine, and it beats most of the other waters. Granted, it's not as clean of a win, but it still does kind of have a pseudo electric coverage.
Yeah, I think the big drawback though with the Azumarill over Electric is that Lapras and Blastoise, and you really struggle against Mantine with Azumarill.
Why do you struggle?
Mantine with
Doesn't
Wing Attack, as if it gets 14 energy, can flip that matchup, and
Okay.
2 shield it wins every time.
okay.
So I mean, if you're relying on Azumarill to take down Mantine, that's really not a good position to be.
Right.
And it does better versus Bubble, but it still loses that 2 shield fight.
Okay, that's good to know.
Actually.
That's interesting. Just spamming aerial ace, I assume.
Yep, and that's even getting a double Ice Beam bait done to you by Azumarill. You still, yeah. Granted, Azumarill
pretty
has Play Rough and Ice Beam ready to go when it dies in the 2 shield fight, but that means Azumarill can't switch in and win in any way, shape, or form.
Right,
without
right.
Excessive big.
All right. Anything else? I guess we didn't really talk about like potential changes to help make the team a little stronger against Quagsire.
Yeah.
I think maybe what if they swapped Slowbro to like Blastoise?
Yeah, Blastoise. Go ahead.
You lose the grass coverage with Slowbro, which I think that's the primary reason you want it, is that confusion against the poison types. Which,
Right, but is Ninetales and Fortress not enough grass coverage?
for that team it is, because you're running Venusaur, so you're not excessively weak to grass. You could drop Slowbro for Blastoise or Bubble Mantine or something like that, just to help shore up the Quagsire.
Right, or maybe Lapras even, or Politoed or something like that.
Yeah, I think any of the other pure waters or like strong water attackers is a good choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if you made one change to shore up that Quagsire matchup, it would be like God said, and drop Slowbro for one of the like pure water types.
Yeah.
Because most
And
of the other bases are covered pretty well with the other 5 mons.
And I would go like say, like Blastoise, Toad, Lapras, Bubble, Mantine would be great. Instead of like say Azumarill, because Azumarill would lose say to Sludge Bomb Quagsire, and so your opponent, if they were running Sludge Bomb, would still feel really comfortable bringing Quagsire.
Yep,
Yeah.
and I know it's a fan favorite around here, but I really don't like Acid Spray on Quagsire. I feel it loses too many matchups once people know what to do against it. So you'll beat inexperienced players, but I just don't feel you'll beat any experienced players.
Yeah, and I mean, back to that showing up the Quagsire matchup. You could also flip that Acid Spray and run Earthquake to help give you a better Quagsire matchup as well. So if you made those 2 changes, you'd be like really solid against Quagsire versus what is showing right now.
Yeah, you're really not weak to grass or Azumarill, so you don't really need Sludge Bomb that much. So running Stone Edge Earthquake is probably the better set.
And then the last thing to add is based on the notes. It looks like the moveset on the Ninetales was Fire Split and Flamethrower, which is fine, but you're going to want to add that second charge move for Psyshock.
Sorry, just cutting in here. Everything that I put on the spreadsheet itself, if I only listed one move, that just means it's not the standard. Assume they have second moves for everything.
Got it. Okay, never mind then.
So the Azumarill Ice Beam plus second means he only had Ice Beam unlocked, but Fire Spin Flamethrower Ninetales means he had Psyshock as a second.
Okay, got it.
That was just lazy.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I would actually find a different Ninetales if you're running Fire Spin, because Solar Beam is really useful in a lot of late game fights for Nine.
Kale, Mom, and I, these are 2 puppies. I took them out. But
God, so you're saying you think Solar Beam is better with Fire Spin? Because I've been
Yeah.
talking to several people that are running Fire Spin Flamethrower and say they've been liking it. So
I could see where it's useful, especially with shields down. You just get that nuke against the grass, and you're not worried about a Rock Tomb from Fortress late game because you could just KO it with one flamethrower. But I feel you'll need Solar Beam more often because you'll come in on a grass type, you'll KO it with Fire Spin, and then you're going to get a water type immediately. And without Solar Beam, you're not going to take a shield. They're not going to shield Flamethrower. They're not going to shield Scythe.
right, that makes sense. That's good to hear because I've kind of been weighing up possible Ninetales movesets myself.
It's not like Fire Spin charges slowly, so you're bound to get Solar Beam at least once a game.
Right, and especially if you get in against like a fortress, you're just farming at that point, and so you should get to a Solar Beam against the next mon pretty easily. All right, Justin or Mason, do you guys have anything you want to add on this team, or should we move on to the next one?
We can move
I'm
on to the
good.
next. Yeah.
All right, so the next team is Tythus, and the team is almost identical, with the only difference being they have Lantern instead of Electabuzz. So probably same suggestion.
Yeah. So he's a little bit better against Quagsire because Lantern can at least, chip away at it a little bit with Water Gun, and if it somehow can get to a Hydro Pump,
Yeah.
it can take it out. So it's a little bit better, but I think, that's not going to discourage someone from, still trying to isolate Venusaur and, let their Quagsire just run the table. I think making those changes that we mentioned before would also apply here.
But he also does have Solar Beam Ninetales, so it's one less thing to worry about.
Okay, yeah, so Solar Beam Ninetales, helps like a little bit for like that late game nuke or shield burning option. But I don't think saying, oh, he has Solar Beam, so he's now safe against Quagsire is a very fair assessment.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying because you said Solar Beam is good against the water types, and you may want to switch Flamethrower to Solar Beam or a different Ninetales in general. I'm just saying he doesn't need to.
Right.
Compared to Scarlord's team, I mean.
Right. Like he's already got that change. Yeah, he's also running Acid Spray, just like Scarlord. So, same thing applies that Tristan said earlier. You lose that mirror, so it's just another negative matchup.
Yeah, so I think the same advice we gave to Scarlord would apply, which would be consider dropping that Slowbro for pure water. I think Blastoise would probably be my preference. And then also consider possibly swapping Acid Spray to Earthquake on your Quagsire. Alright, so now we're going to do Mark Call's team, which is Quagsire, Azumarill, Meganium is their grass type, Charizard, Lantern, and Fortress. And they're running Acid Spray on the Quagsire, they're running Charge Beam on the Lantern, they're running Rock Tomb Heavy Slam on the Fortress.
So did he say that he wanted to switch Meg to Venu?
Yeah, he said.
Yeah.
if you
Okay.
can find one.
Okay. And then, I'd just say, also if you can't find a Frenzy Plant Venusaur, Ivysaur is a great substitute that doesn't require like you to chase down a legacy move.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we covered this last stream briefly. There's some people I know, including Polly, who are actually running Ivysaur instead of Venusaur, just because of like IVs and like their Venusaur had bad IVs and they have an Ivysaur with good IVs, and so the Ivysaur overall performs better. So I mean that's something to keep in mind too, is that it's not like Venusaur is strictly better than Ivysaur. They have basically the same matchups across the board.
Yep. And, I'd say, you can grab like a weather boosted one if you want to save on dust. Because, like depending on, what the IVs are and stuff, like it's right around that, 30 to 35 range. So, I mean, you can definitely save a lot by getting a weather boosted, or while you're asking around for that Frenzy Plant Venusaur, ask around for a weather boosted Bulbasaur as well.
Yeah, because I'm sure people are probably gonna just be transferring their high level, low IV Bulbasaurs anyways.
Right.
So they'd probably give it to you for nothing.
Yep.
Bonus points if it's shiny.
Well, you might have to give a little more for that.
And so,
All right.
I mean, what do we think about a couple of his move sets, I guess? Or do you want to talk about other changes, I guess, broadly?
Let's do it. I mean, you brought up the movesets, so let's start there.
So, I mean, I think there's, some merit for Charge Beam Lantern, but I just prefer Water Gun. Because I think that's really the edge that Lantern has over a lot of the other electrics, is that it's able to come in against, say, a low health Quagsire that just emptied its energy. It's able to come in and just chip away at it with Water Gun to finish it off, or like late game, it has the Hydro Pump option, where some of the other electrics can't really compete with Quagsire. So I prefer Water Gun if I'm running Lantern.
Yeah, because I mean, Water Gun also just has a better damage output.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember for sure, but I want to say that like resisted Water Gun does sometimes more damage than like a super effective Charge Beam.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to double check that, but it's like something along those lines, where Charge Beam just like doesn't really do much damage, and so then you're relying basically only on charge moves for your damage output.
Yeah. And so another, Gott's kind of mentioned his opinion about Acid Spray, but he's also, or Mark Law, they're also running Acid Spray Quagsire. So that's just, something to keep in mind. I assume if you're running it, you've tested it a lot and are familiar with, how to use it in the matchups, but it's just a little bit trickier to use than say like Stone Edge Earthquake, where it's like very straightforward,
Or even Stone Edge Sludge Bomb.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely merit to Acid Spray. If you use it well, it can be really deadly. But I just personally don't like it as much because I feel like it's not as consistent, and I prefer consistency. But I mean, that's kind of a playstyle choice. So I think we in general kind of agree with Gots here and stray away from Acid Spray, just because we prefer the other two options, which are more consistent. But there's nothing wrong with Acid Spray. Like, it's a perfectly viable moveset. And
Definitely.
if it works for you, then it works for you.
And I do like Acid Spray a little bit more here than in previous metas, because I feel like Quagsire is able to still win even if it doesn't get the Acid Spray bait, which hasn't always been the case, with previous Acid Spray users in other metas. But it does, it does lose the mirror. That's the biggest one for me. Like that earthquake for the mirror is can come up huge.
All right, and then what do you guys think on team in general?
I mean, I guess we
Brandon,
should assume Venus or Ivy, right, for Meganium too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it feels like he's also trying to counter waters that aren't Quagsire first while leaving himself open to Quagsire. Because that's what the Ice Beam Play Rough Azumarill does. Charge Beam Lantern's also for water. Meganium's also for water. And then Fortress can tank some waters and win in certain situations. But he's leaving himself very open.
You just love to talk about water.
Yeah, we'll get to my team later.
That's a good point though. Play rough over Hydro Pump on the Azumarill, is definitely favoring like that water head to head over say, like potentially being able to win against Quags more consistently. Yeah, I think he needs a little bit help against Quagsire, like the previous teams.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be the trend of all these teams as they've been running Quagsire and then Azumarill or Slowbro, which don't have the best Quagsire matchups. And then one Grass is basically their only Quag counter. And then they have a Fire, an Electric, and Fortress. So yeah, I'd agree. I mean, there's not, like, all these teams, like, there's not necessarily anything wrong with them, but I just would rather not be that weak to Quagsire. Like, it's something you can play around. But again, I think swapping that Azumarill for another water, maybe Blastoise, might make your team more balanced.
Yeah, I agree. And then do we want to mention a little bit, I guess, about the Fortress moveset?
Yeah, go for it.
So he's running Rock Throw and Heavy Slam. So Heavy Slam's, the best bait option, shield bait option that Fortress has. And then Rock Throw, provides
Rock Tomb.
Rock Tomb provides valuable coverage against Charizard and then potentially Mantine in an energy banked energy situation. So like coming out of like a farm against grass or something like that. But like even energy, it's not able to beat Charizard to that. But I really prefer Earthquake on Fortress for that hard hitting move. Earthquake, can be really good against say like a Lantern, like late. And it's just it's a great move to have.
Something to point out, since you're talking about the team being
Yep.
Quag weak, Rock Tomb Heavy Slam is extremely Quag weak.
Yep.
Because you need Earthquake to beat Quagsire. Double Heavy Slam doesn't usually get there.
Right. And then to have chance and shields down as well. That bug bite
Right.
paired with one Earthquake is what it needs.
The game they purchased on Steam.
Also, another thing is that I believe, Gods, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Heavy Slam Rock Tomb moveset loses the mirror. Is that right?
Yes, although it's really not that close because Earthquake takes so much energy that usually Heavy Slam will come out a third time in that fight. But generally, if you land an Earthquake,
Did stream just cut out?
Yeah, it cut out for me too. I think that was the Discord side. Gots, can you finish that thought because you cut out?
Sure. Give me a second. What was I saying?
You were talking about how Earthquake was slower, so something about getting to a third heavy slam.
Oh, right. I run Rock Tomb Earthquake on mine, and since it's slower than Heavy Slam, sometimes at the end of a match, if the other fortress had a slight energy advantage on me, they'll get another Heavy Slam out, and that'll win their match for them. Because I didn't land an Earthquake, I went with double Rock Tomb. Because
Okay.
yeah, if you land the Earthquake, you win the mirror, and that's the big thing you need to hit. Also, Earthquake is, you will win that fight versus Lantern just about every time, because Water Gun does so little damage that even with an energy advantage, Lantern can't farm 2 Thunderbolts to KO before Earthquake comes out.
And we had a comment from the Discord chat where Torpedo Runner said he feels like either Quag or Fortress should have Earthquake. He says you lose a lot if you don't have Earthquake at all.
Yep, it's a strong hit against the grass poisons because they take neutral from it. So it's going to be your best charge attack if you're low health against a Venusaur coming in. It's your best bet against Quagsire. It's your strongest hit against the fire, other than Charizard with Rock Tomb, obviously.
Yeah, I think.
And-
Oh, go ahead.
It's just a way to nuke the electric types because they have such a great matchup versus Fortress already that they're always going to want to come in, and if they know you don't have Earthquake, they're kind of even more free to come in. I think Raichu's the only one that really fears a Rock Tomb because it's so fresh.
Right, that's a good point.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, hopefully we've convinced them to maybe switch that to Earthquake. Like, do you have any thoughts on which the advantages of Heavy Slam over Rock Tomb? Thoughts?
Oh, that's a really tough one. Like, I know I want both. I want all 3 moves all the time, constantly. Like, because I want Heavy Slam versus Quagsire, because I know without it, I just don't stand a chance. Because like Rock Tomb isn't fast enough to bait; it's only a little bit slower than Earthquake,
Right.
so you might as well Earthquake. But I want Rock Tomb to just nuke Charizards and Ninetales that come in late. It is faster, and sometimes I just need that little bit of faster energy to get it off.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think we mentioned this last stream, but Polly and I noticed from scrims that, he was losing some matches against me because he didn't have Rock Tomb, and I had shields down and could still bring my Charizard in to just basically take him out with fast moves, even though I had no shields and he had an energy lead, kind of a thing. So
Yeah, Charizard needs a lot of health gone for Earthquake to KO. It does about 50%, but that's it. Bug Bite isn't doing it.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, I mean that's definitely a tough one because having, without that Rock Tomb option, Charizard farms even more easily, and can just win the game even with shields down. But again, like you said, having that Heavy Slam bait option can be nice because Earthquake's kind of slow.
And there's a lot of waters that take more damage from 2 Heavy Slams than they would a single Earthquake. It feels weird, but because of Stab and the really good DPE on Heavy Slam, that's usually the better option, is 2 Heavy Slams.
What matchups is that got? Like Blastoise?
I think it's better than Blastoise because you can get the 2 of them off. I know it's better versus Quagsire, 2 Heavy Slams. If you can't get an Earthquake to land, 2 Heavy Slams is better. So like if they don't shield the first one, it's going to be a near death experience for Quagsire, but he'll live. Azumarill takes neutral from Heavy Slam.
Right, Azumarill and Lapras both take
Yeah,
neutral.
that's definitely one you want Heavy Slam for.
Yeah.
Rock Tomb can't KO Lapras at all. Like, that's an easy fight for Lapras.
Oh, really? Even though it's super effective?
And Rock Tomb's DPE isn't that great versus. It's 0.8 versus 0.72. And because Heavy Slam is faster.
Right. Alright, so yeah, we covered movesets. And I think, are we kind of leaning the same advice that we gave the other teams of possibly swapping Azumarill for more of a pure water that has a better Quag matchup?
If he knows his meta is not running Sludge Bomb Quag, the Azumarill's fine. Because
But
you
should he?
win that fight.
But should he be running Hydro Pump then? Gots, because right now he has Ice Beam Play Rough on the Azu.
I think Azu can win just Stone Edge Earthquake Quad. Let me check that.
Because maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I had thought that Azu needed Hydro Pump to have a chance against the Earthquake variant.
It looks like if you block the Earthquake and you get the Ice Beam bait, it's a tie. But if you block the Stone Edge, then you lose. And you'll lose all the time if they block Play Rough. So Hydro Pump is better. But I don't see if his team needs the water cover.
Well, it would just be for the Quag matchup, really.
Right. He's decent versus water because Fortress isn't a pushover. It's going to lose most of them, but it'll threaten. And Meganium or Ivysaur, whatever grass he goes with, plus Lantern, is strong enough to keep most every waters out, especially if he's running Charge Beam Lantern. Like, that's such a good anti-water.
Yeah.
Like, I've even been thinking about Charge Beam on my Lantern because I don't sacrifice the Charizard matchup. I can't farm it, but I'm not weak to Charizard like a Raichu would be, like taking a straight Dragon Claw or Blast Burn and dying.
That's
Wait,
crazy
so
because
you're
we just suggested Water Gun, but I mean, like, whatever floats your boat, man. Both work. I mean, they're both viable.
They
yeah.
really do. Definitely. And if you want a better water matchup on your Lantern, then Charge Beam is definitely the move. But you would definitely want to switch Fortress to Earthquake and Azumarill to Hydro Pump to shore up that Quagsire matchup. Because at that point, Lantern cannot take Quagsire at all. Whereas without Earthquake, Lantern really doesn't fear Quagsire any.
Yeah, especially if Lanterns are... Yeah, especially that Water Gun Lantern. Because it's chipping away, but Charge Beam is kind of helpless.
Yeah, Charge Beam does next to nothing versus Quagsire.
I mean, it does next to nothing even when it does neutral damage. And even, like, super effective Charge Beam isn't really doing all that much.
Yeah, technically Charge Beam is one of the worst in the game, isn't it? Like, its only real viable niche is how fast it charges energy, but it's still worse than Fury Cutter.
Yeah.
It's a much cleaner KO versus Lapras and Kingdra and all the other waters if you're worried about them.
Right.
And his team kind of does fear waters a little bit because the only real water counter he has is Azumarill and Meganium. And Lapras, as long as it isn't doing neutral back to Lantern. Not Lapras, Lantern. Doing neutral to Lantern.
Yeah. Alright, let's move on to the next team now, which is... I don't even know how to say this. Does anyone want to take a stab at it?
Jalakuda.
Alright, his team. His or her team. Which is Azumarill, Blastoise, Victory Bell, Magcargo, Ninetales, and Beedrill. So what do you guys think?
So I will say this right away. I got rocked by a Beedrill today, mostly because I didn't know its matchups that well, and I kept switching in the wrong thing. I think going forward now, I'd be fine, but Beedrill is scary if you don't know what you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, and it has pretty quick firing charge moves, right?
Yeah, Sludge Bomb comes out really fast because Poison Jab is a really good fast move.
And X Scissor is even faster.
Yeah, I don't know why Aerial Ace over X Scissor. I definitely would switch that around. I don't know what coverage he's gaining with Aerial Ace.
And then let's see. So he's got Ninetales for his anti-fire or anti-grass, anti-fortress. And then so the thing I don't understand is he's running Magcargo, Azumarill, and Blastoise, which seems like a bit of overkill here.
Yes, that's 3 anti-flyers, and even though he's got Beedrill and Victory Bell, I think you'd want to drop 1 or 2 of them for anything.
For Quagsire?
Yeah, I don't know. I do like non-Quagsire teams because everybody is so gung-ho to counter Quagsire that dropping it could give you a potential edge, but at the same point in time, how much risk do you take not bringing Quagsire?
Right. I mean, the biggest thing is Quagsire just has a lot of good coverage. And another thing I'm noticing on this team is, besides the Victory Bell, what else on this team can handle electrics?
That's Beedrill's role, actually. It does really well versus most electrics.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. It beats Lantern completely. And that was the thing I thought. I thought Lantern's Water Gun was just going to farm Beedrill, but no, 2 Sludge Bombs and Beedrill. It's even more disgusting if they get the X Scissor bait.
And what about Raichu, though?
I'm checking that one right now.
Another thing I'm thinking is outside of maybe Azumarill and Blastoise, Lapras does work against the other 4. It's a little close versus Victory Bell, but Ice Shard charges up Surf in 4 hits. Nothing's going to want to take more than 2 Surfs or even 3 in a row.
Yeah, but Lapras is taking Razor Leaf from Victory Bell.
Yeah, Lapras cannot tank Razor Leaf at all. It's a loss every time. Your Razor Leafer needs 1 shield to prevent the Ice Beam if you get it out.
But Lapras can survive, I think it's 11, 12 Razor Leafs. It only takes 8 to get Ice Beam.
Right. Generally, you'll get an Ice Beam, so it's a 1 versus 0 shield fight. Or you fire off a Leaf Blade if you've got a little extra energy to force a KO or shield early. But Lapras and Kingdra, the 2 where people think they're grass counters, not versus Razor Leaf. That is an easy win for Razor. So it looks like Beedrill versus Raichu. Raichu needs to land a Thunder Punch bait. Otherwise, it's getting KO'd.
Okay.
And Beedrill just needs to X Scissor twice, and that's it. That's victory.
Right, which is another reason why swapping Aerial Ace to X Scissor would be a smart play here.
Yeah, without the X Scissor, you don't beat the electrics. You beat Lantern because double Sludge Bomb does, but you need X Scissor to beat Raichu and probably Electabuzz as well.
Yeah, I guess the team isn't too bad against Electric then, because they have the Beedrill, they have the Victory Bell, and Ninetales has a decent Electric matchup too, actually.
Yeah,
I think Magcargo does as well, because Rock Throw hits really hard. Not versus Lantern, but versus Raichu and Electabuzz. I think Magcargo does decent well.
Yeah, it does win. Yep.
But
right, so...
I see Magcargo getting hated out of the meta because it was a very popular first week pick. So I kind of see it getting counter-picked or counter-drafted or counter-hated or whatever you put week 2. I think a lot of people are going to bring a bigger water presence. So Mad Cargo feels like a really weak league going into week 2.
I mean, even that aside, I feel like I've just noticed an uptick in the popularity of water mons recently, regardless of Magcargo week 1 or not. Like, it just seems like people seem to be leaning that way anyways.
Charizard
was
such it's all that B Gold propaganda.
Hey, I try.
But Charizard is so pivotal, a fire type in general, to stop the Fortress Venusaur or Fortress Grass combo, that water is definitely on the uptick. I've seen a lot more Azumarill. I've seen a lot more pure waters come out just to stop Charizard in his trap.
Yeah. So yeah, I think going back to what we were saying, what changes would you guys suggest? I mean, I know we said drop 1 or maybe 2 of the anti-flyers, but what would you bring in?
Quag seems like the easy bring in because there's just the Quag Grass core is a very strong core, and you can win games just off those 2. And especially since he's got Beedrill and Ninetales, and his 2 waters aren't excessively grass weak, opposing Venusaurs are not going to want to come in that easily. And so you can run Quag, Victory Bell, and one of the others, and you could still potentially win because you get locked into a Venusaur Victory Bell matchup. That's not terrible, and you've still got an anti-Quag in the back with Blastoise or somewhat Azumarill.
So are you saying just one change of probably drop Magcargo in favor of Quag?
If you're only going to make one change to the team, I would do that. And then I would run it for a bit and see where your weaknesses lie. The other change, I think, even though Beedrill does work well, I think not having an electric on your team and relying on Blastoise and Azumarill to be your anti-flyers might be a little sketchy, because I know Mantine can do really well versus both of them. Bubble Mantine actually beats Blastoise, and Wing Attack Mantine and Bubble Mantine can force near losses or even wins depending on energy versus Azumarill.
Right, so you're saying maybe drop one of those 2 in favor of an electric.
Yeah, maybe not Lantern specifically, but potentially Electabuzz, Raichu, Raikou if you want to spend the dust.
I
Or
mean,
Lantern, because you probably
Lantern would be fine too, right?
Yeah, no, I'm totally on Team Lantern. I think Lantern's probably not replaceable because of how badly it beats Charizard. It's up there in Azumarill levels of just it tanks blast burns. And
definitely. And yeah, I think the other thing is that Blastoise and Azumarill have somewhat similar coverage in that they're tanky water types and they have that Ice Beam as well. Obviously, there's a little bit of difference, but I feel like there's a lot of overlap there too.
Yeah, I think an important distinction between the 2 is that Azumarill is able to beat Confusion Executor because that bubble charges the Ice Beam so fast, whereas Blastoise is lagging a little bit with the water gun. So it's not quite able to beat Confusion Executor.
Right. I mean, it's not like exact overlap, and also Azumarill has like the Azumarill has the better water matchups, but then Blastoise picks up the better Quag matchup.
Better Quag, yeah, because it wins independent of sets. So
yeah. So I mean, it's not like a exact like for like replacement, but there is a lot of overlap where I feel like, you're probably not going to run both in the same trio. And I feel like it'd be hard for me at least to decide which one of the 2 I'd even want to run if I did want to run a water type that match.
Right.
Given that most every team will probably have a Quagsire, I'd be more inclined to drop Azumarill for Lantern because
Yeah.
they're both anti-flyers at that point.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too.
And Azumarill is always scared of the Sludge Bomb Quag. Like, just
Yep.
that's a thing, and it's a very, very good thing to have. Like, I think Sludge Bomb Quag is, I think it's the best set, but I see a lot of merit in Earthquake Stone Edge as well.
Okay. On that note, we're gonna move on to the next team, which is Get Riggedy Wrecked. And their team is Quagsire, Mantine, Kingdra, Ivysaur, Lantern, Fortress.
So, since we're moving on to this team, and I think we had a question on Twitch asking between Victreebel and Ivysaur. The previous team had a Victreebel, and now we have an Ivysaur. If you could start off, I guess, explain the difference between these two.
So, I mean, Ivysaur is basically just a Venusaur clone, more or less. And then Victreebel has that Razor Leaf, which, gives it a much stronger win against water types, but makes it have worse matchup against other grass types because it's not like Ivysaur and Venusaur where they have that fast charging Vine Whip, which gets them to a Sludge Bomb real quick. Razor Leaf charges a lot slower. But then Victreebel has, it has Acid Spray for some shenanigans there.
And Leaf Tornado for added shenanigans.
I really don't I don't think there's much merit to run Leaf Tornado when you already have Acid Spray. I think you're better off running Leaf Blade for that fast firing, kind of sure damage.
No, for sure. But I mean, there is one team in here that's running triple spray, so they might as well run quad spray or triple plus a debuff. But it's a different team. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, the only problem I have with Acid Spray on Victreebel is the 50 energy takes forever. I don't know how often you're going to get it, other than farming a Quagsire or farming a water type, and then getting a couple more Razor Leafs off after your counter comes in, and then hitting the Acid Spray.
Well, isn't that exactly what it would be for?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
most of the matchups you want it for, you're going to be just using Razor Leaf.
Right, and my only problem with the Acid Spray, it is 50 energy. You are likely to get there. I just don't know how often you'll get it there, and how often just firing off Leaf Blades would be a better play, even if they're.
I guess it depends what's coming in, but like, if a Fortress or a Charizard is coming in next, do you really want to use a Leaf Blade? Because I'd probably go for the Acid Spray.
If you could get to the Acid Spray, sure. Like against Quag, you'll probably get to Acid Spray because you're going to take no damage from Quagsire. I mean, unless they had energy and they Stone Edge you for like half your health, and then you're definitely not getting Acid Spray at that point.
Alright, but Garth, is there any other differences between the Victreebel and Ivysaur that you think are worth mentioning?
I think the big ones are you win grass or win the water matchup much harder. You can actually 2v1 with ease with Razor Leaf, whereas with Venusaur you struggle because a lot of times after you beat a water type, they'll switch in a counter type, or it shields down and they have a super effective move or a really strong neutral move versus you, and then can hit you and take you out. With Vine Whip, you shore up that bad matchup a little bit better because you do get the Sludge Bomb or Earthquake and Meganium's position, but you lose the ability to take on the bulky waters that take neutral or hit really hard, like Lapras with Ice Shard or Kingdra in the 2-Shield, where they can just tank your hits because Vine Whip does so little damage. It's all charge moves at that point. And then they hit back hard with their fast moves and then go on through the rest of your team. That to me is basically the two differences. It's just how much you fear heavy water lineups versus how much you want to be able to hit Sludge Bomb on Charizard.
Right. Well, and the Venusaur, Ivysaur have better grass matchups than Victreebel too, right?
That
because
is-
they just
yeah.
have that faster charge.
Yeah, they can get to Sludge Bomb and fight off, whereas Razor Leaf does pitifully low damage versus Venusaur, and you're stuck trying to Leaf Blade.
Right, and both that Razor Leaf and Leaf Blade are being double resisted by Venusaur, while Venusaur is getting neutral Sludge Bomb hits against you.
Yeah, and Victreebel doesn't have the best defenses, so I haven't simmed it, but I'm pretty sure Sludge Bomb takes minimum half, if not more.
Yeah, Sludge Bomb does a lot. I've had that matchup a few times.
87
and
of
screen-
127 damage. That's not pretty.
All right, so now that we've kind of covered that question, let's get back to the team, which to review was Quagsire, Mantine, Kingdra, Ivysaur, Lantern, and Fortress. So they do have a quad water scenario going on here, but they have the Quagsire, which obviously helps against the electrics, and then they have Mantine as a flyer to help against the grass, and then Kingdra even takes neutral from grass and electric. So even though it is quad water, it's not like it's overly weak to electric and grass. But what do you guys think?
So I like Kingdra as a neutral. I don't like Kingdra because it loses to Fortress and Quagsire so easily. And Lantern is an iffy fight. You need 2 shields and it needs to be Water Gun for you to beat Lantern. But I do like Kingdra because it is very strong as a safe switch if they don't have a Fortress. Because even versus the Quagsire, that's an iffy fight, depending on the moveset.
Or Azu, right? I mean, because Azu's just
Yeah.
like a wall.
Yeah, and Azu's popularity is starting to run up, and so Kingdra is probably going to start slowing down.
That's the biggest reason why I mean, I was a little bit more interested in Kingdra. You know, it just kind of intrigued me a little bit as like a safe switch along with Lapras. But given the what I presume is going to be increased prevalence of Azumarill after some of the tournament reports and things like that, I think Kingdra's going to have to be benched probably for the time.
Yeah, you'll probably end up not bringing Kingdra more often than you ever bring Kingdra.
Right.
Completely, like by like 120% easily. Like it needs to have not Fortress on their team, not Azumarill on their team, and not a Razor Leaf on their team. That's a tall order.
Yeah, and Fortress seems to be getting pretty popular too.
It's a very strong anti-grass, and a lot of these quad waters are packing Fortress because it just stone walls all grass types.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Fortress it ends up being a better anti-grass than the Flyers and Fires.
It's the defenses and the typing, because you're basically immune to grass and you're immune to poison.
Yeah.
There's not much else that grass carries. Like Earthquake hits you neutrally from Meganium, but because you don't have a poison subtyping, Bug Bite shreds you.
Yeah.
So I definitely would drop Kingdra for something else. If you want to keep the quad water, go Lapras.
Or
It's a
even
little bit
Mantine.
better of a pick.
They already have
Well, he has
Mantine.
Mantine.
Oh, yep, sorry.
Azumarill, I mean, I don't know what Azumarill would do with Lantern and Mantine on the same team. But
Yeah, I think if they want the quad water, I'd agree. It seems like Lapras is probably the best pick. Would there be any argument for Blastoise?
It's over Kingdra. I don't know. That's it's really weird. Like you already have Lantern and Mantine and Quagsire. I don't know what you need Blastoise for in that pick.
Okay, yeah, I think so. Lapras in for Kingdra is probably the way to make this quad water team a little better.
Mm-hmm. And then you're less weak to the Venu Fortress core that you will see against quad water, because without the fire fast move, Fortress and Venu are very safe, but Lapras can do work because it can double shield the grass matchup as long as it is in Razor Leaf, and it can take down Fortress really easily. Like I am definitely all on Team Fire Fast Move just to stop the Fortress Venu combo.
So you're running Charizard now? Is that what you're saying?
I am running Charizard as much as I might find a Ninetales in Charizard now, but yeah,
Blasphemy.
It sucks, but yeah, I gotta run Charizard. My team's in the list.
I know that feel, dude. I feel you.
Not that I don't like Charizard. It's just I wrote it off so early because of how strong Water was. And then Venu and Fortress. It's like, really? Really?
Mason, are you back to standard Charizard, or you're running the Wing Attack Flamethrower?
Oh, is that me? Were you asking me?
No, he was asking Gots, I think.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well,
But you
I guess
can
both of you.
chime in, Mason.
But I don't.
Wasn't that only Mason on that train?
That's
think it was
just me on that train. It's just a solo. It's not even a train. It's just a single track car.
Yeah.
Did
Hey,
it crash
man,
and burn or not yet?
If you're
With like an
chugging
electric
along,
engine that isn't approved by the DOT.
I
Going to
can't get
somewhere
rid of
like-
it, man. It's seriously addicting. If Charizard is
Going to
the number
some-
one guy. I mean, Charizard is the most bought Pokemon in this tournament right now. And then what it does is it gives you the mirror without really sacrificing any of its matchups, except that like you have a harder time switching into a Rock Tomb Fortress. But if you switch quick enough, it's still not a problem because you get to Flamethrower before he gets to Rock Tomb. I don't know. I really liked it.
I think that answers your question. Yes, he's on that train still.
he is trucking along one man, just going down the tracks.
I don't think he's on
Going
the
to
train.
some-
I think he's just pushing the train cart himself.
Yeah.
The old lever track train where you're on there just pumping up and.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I'd pick up a Wing Attack if A, I had one in town, and B, if I didn't like the Fire Fast move to shut down Fortress and Venusaur so hard. Like, I get the Wing Attack is just as good from a stats and like scrim standpoint, but the Fire Fast move, just the speed from it, is what I'm going for.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the appeal because, like, I mean, I'm still considering Mantine because I like how it has those better water matchups. But again, like you said, having that fire fast move for the Fortress is seeming to be pretty important. And so, you know, running the Charizard with Wing Attack isn't much different than running Mantine with Wing Attack early in terms of the Fortress matchup.
Yeah, I think I made that joke when Mason got all hyped to Wing Attack Charizard. I asked him what was different about it.
You can run them together, man. That's I don't know. It's great.
And maybe if there's one at Go Fest, I'll pick it up.
I mean, might as well, right?
Yeah, if somebody wants to give it to me without
Yeah.
charging me an arm and a leg.
Maybe it's good in another meta. You never know.
All right, let's do a Mystic Styles team now, which is Quagsire, Mantine, Azumarill, Venusaur, Ninetales, and Fortress. And it looks like for moves, they're running Wing Attack, Aerial Ace, Ice Beam on the Mantine, Ice Beam Player Off on the Azu. They're running Fire Spin, Psyshock, Flamethrower on the Ninetales, and Rock Tomb and Earthquake on the Fortress.
Lantern will definitely give you problems.
Yeah, Lantern's a pretty safe switch. Hydro Pump can take out 50% of Venusaur's health if it doesn't shield. So even worst case, you're going to chunk Venusaur, and it's just going to beat everything else. Although Quagsire will give it some paths because of Intense Earthquake. But I would definitely be inclined to bring a Lantern versus this team. Just especially because it's Rock Tomb Heavy Slam on Fortress.
No, it's Rock Tomb Earthquake.
Is it? Okay. His picture still has Heavy Slam.
Well, maybe, I don't know. I'm just going off of what Beagle wrote in the spreadsheet. So
Yeah,
Maybe I made a mistake.
No, I see Earthquake in the text above, but his screenshot.
Yeah, no,
I
I
guess he
went by
just
the
forgot to
text.
Yeah, he probably just forgot to rename it or something.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Well, that is the best
Even-
moveset for Fortress. All 3 moves.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with every move. Actually, no, sorry. The best move is just Struggle Bug and nothing else.
Struggle Bug.
If you're going
Oh,
all
dear.
or none, you might as well go for none.
Might as well. Yeah, so Lantern has a little bit more trepidation coming in since it does have the Earthquake on Fortress, and it will lose the Zero Shield fight without an energy advantage. But even then, I'm still not gonna not bring Lantern because at worst case, I'm gonna chunk 50% of Venusaur's health.
Well, what if they swap in a Quagsire against you? Or is the Venusaur matchup a better switch for them?
Venusaur is stronger if you have shields. If you don't have shields, Quagsire is stronger because the Earthquake's going to come out faster.
Right.
And as long as you're worried about the Hydro Pump from Lantern as Quagsire more so.
Right, that makes sense. So what would you suggest to make this team not so soft to Lantern? Or do you think they just have to play around it?
I think they just play around it because I mean, like I said, they're with the Earthquake on Fortress. It's definitely less weak, although Fortress will still lose with shielding in play. As long as they play around Lantern and they bait it in, or they don't lead Ninetales into Lantern or something like that, then they should do well. But it'll always be a threat they have to deal with. But they can rely on Quagsire and Venusaur to just back up that Lantern threat pretty easily.
So you think this is a good team as is?
Yeah, I don't hate the team. It's definitely got an Azu in for an electric, and I don't like that one so much versus a lot of the off meta, but versus the concentrated meta, it's definitely strong.
Well, I'm just going to say I've been testing this team out, kind of following what you said, Guts, dropping Azu, putting in Lantern to run a mirror match Lantern if I need to, and I've been doing pretty well with it.
Yeah, Lantern to me feels almost necessary because of it. It's the hard wall of fire. It's the hard wall of Fortress, as long as shields are in play, and it picks up a lot of secondary targets like the Lapras and Kingdra, although Azu gets Kingdra too. So, but that some of the other waters struggle with. and the electrics even struggle with.
All right, do you guys have anything else you want to add here?
No, it's nice to see a wing attack on Mantine, and that's sort of becoming the go-to set. I know Bubble got a lot of hype, but I just feel it's what you're bringing Mantine to do. It's counter grass.
Right.
I don't feel his team is that weak to grass. He's got 4 strong counters to grass, so he could run Bubble, but at the same point in time, I don't feel his team's weak to fire at all, because he's got Azumarill and Quagsire.
Yeah. So I could go either way, I guess.
Yeah, I think he's a bit weak to Blastoise.
So then Bubble would help with that.
Yeah, Bubble would shore up that Blastoise matchup, because he does have Venusaur, so he's not afraid of the Grass Mirror. Fortress and Ninetales will tear apart grass. And Quagsire doesn't like Blastoise at all. So
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's kind of the thing with Mantine is the wing attack makes it a harder grass counter, but Bubble seems to make it a little more of a generalist. Would you agree with that?
Yep, and it does shore up your fire matchup if you are weak to fire, but I see a lot of waters, so I'm not really too worried about the fire matchup.
Yeah.
But you do better versus Quagsire, and you do better versus Blastoise, and you don't lose to Magcargo as badly. Like, I think Bubble wins Magcargo.
Oh, I think Bubble kind of kills Magcargo because it's 2 times super effective.
The rock throw from Magcargo hurts, and Magcargo has a decent amount of defense. So I think Mantine is left wounded at the end of that fight. Yeah, Mantine is down to 19 hit points at the end of that fight. But it has Aerial Ace fully charged. And there's no way Magcargo is getting a second Stone Edge off, ever. So it's a win, but it is a very close win. So depending on what you need Mantine to do after that, makes a difference.
Right, that makes sense.
And I don't feel his team's weak to Magcargo at all. Venusaur takes down Magcargo pretty easily. Quagsire takes down Magcargo. Azumarill takes down Magcargo. So I wouldn't switch Bubble just to take on Magcargo. I'd switch it to take on Blastoise. That might prove to be a threat.
Right. So, AJ, what's this whole Lantern Raichu nonsense going on in the Discord chat?
I'm just trying to keep it in there because it just floods in everywhere. Tasarna is a Raichu fanboy, and we're just making up hypothetical YouTube links for Lantern because Mason's very much anti-Lantern because he doesn't get it, and then well, the rest of them are just Raichu fanboys.
Yeah, honestly,
I'm not anti-land. I tried it, dude.
Are.
It's just so slow. It's bulky.
But
it's
you
great.
use Lantern and Tempest.
I did. It was great in Tempest because everything was bulk in Tempest, but I also used Magneton, and that was still even my preferred electric.
I will say this. There's a lot of times I lose a fight just because Water Gun didn't get me there. Especially versus some of my would-be counters as Lantern. But the biggest reason I'm bringing Lantern over another electric is because late game, you can tank 2 Blast Burns. There's no electric that can do that.
I mean, I don't think there's much in this meta besides the Lantern and Azumarill that can do that.
No, I'm pretty sure there's just about nothing that can tank 2 Blast Burns.
Can Kingdra with the double resist?
Yeah, Kingdra can do it easily, I believe. But Kingdra
really
doesn't have a whole lot of... I'm pretty sure double resist is...
Double resist is kind of a big deal. But he double resists. I don't know.
But he can't really resist Blast Burn when he's spending all his time on the bench.
Fair. That's rude.
You would
Yeah,
just
well,
Dragon
actually-
Claw it anyways.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just thought of that. So that's not even relevant.
Yeah, Blast Burn does 37 damage to Kingdra, so it would take 3 before dying.
Isn't that half of its health?
It's 116. Thank you very much. You know what? I'm gonna get a shiny Lapras or shiny Kingdra at GoFest, and I'm gonna beat everybody and take it to the Rainbow turn. Don't quote me on that, please. I don't want to have to take a shiny Kingdra.
All right. So next team up is Luigi's team. Luigi CC. Quagsire, Speak of the Devil, Kingdra, Venusaur, Charizard, Raikou, and Fortress. Goss, what you think?
I think Raikou got a lot of hype at the beginning.
AJ, what was that?
I was saying I think Raikou beginning because of Shadow Ball, but it hasn't really panned out for him. Seeing as like both Lantern and Raichu just do a better job at what it feels like it almost does at a lower cost too.
I mean, I think the biggest problem with it is that its moves are on the slower side, and it doesn't really have the bulk to back that up.
Yeah, this is a pretty fast meta, and there's been a lot of games so far where I've won where neither one of us shield. We still got 2 shields at the end of the match because people die to fast moves. It's almost like Kingdom Cup sometimes. And Shadow Ball, although isn't really a slow move, without a bait option, Shadow Ball and Wild Charge are very slow.
Yeah, and like I said, Raikou doesn't really have the bulk to back it up, like say Lantern does. You know, Lantern has slow charge moves, but it has the bulk that it can usually live long enough to get off at least 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think Lantern can tank non-stab earthquakes. Like, I don't even think Fortress one-hit KOs.
Right, so that's kind of the big difference here, is Lantern has that bulk, but Raikou doesn't have the bulk, and so without a bait option or like super quick charge moves, it struggles a bit.
Yeah.
So if you want the heavier hitting charge moves, you go with Lantern because it has the bulk, or you can go with Raichu, which will also does have the faster charge moves because it has that Thunder Punch option.
Yeah, Raikou got a lot of hype early because it was sort of thought to be the Toxicroak of Rainbow, where it beat all of the other electrics because of Shadow Ball. But it just failed outside of the electric matchup way too often. And the speed of Wild Charge and Shadow Ball together without a slower and faster move just ends up getting Raikou KO'd too easily.
I find it hard to bring electrics like in sets of 3 at all, with the premier 2 being Venusaur and Quagsire.
Oh, definitely. That's actually why I like Lantern. The second reason I like Lantern so much is because of Hydro Pump matchup versus Quagsire. A late game, you can fire it off, or if you even double Thunderbolt versus Quagsire is gonna hurt hard. And Lantern has enough bulk, and Earthquake is so slow you can almost get off to Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
In fact, with Quagsires that don't run Earthquake, that just run Stone Edge and whatever else, you can get 2 Thunderbolts, and depending on IVs, you can win that fight. So
Right,
definitely, I would drop Raikou for Raichu, Electabuzz if you don't have a Legacy Raichu, or Lantern. And I would drop Kingdra for anything. Yeah.
Brutal.
Like people pointed out already. Azumarill is coming up. Fortress is there. Grass is there. Kingdra is just losing its appeal to 2 shields safely. Like I tried.
Yeah.
I played for about 3 or 4 days with Kingdra on my team, and I did like what it could do until I found an Azumarill, and I'm like, well, no, you sit on the bench, King. It's like,
all right, or go on.
It's like when I see a Magcargo on their team. It's like, Charizard, just sit. You're not coming in. Sorry.
It's for your own good.
Yep. All right, so next team is similar, but some of the suggestions Gott's just made. So it's Brady Shady's team, and he's got Quagsire, Azumarill, Venusaur, Charizard, Raichu, and Fortress. So do you guys think this is solid, or would you guys make any changes?
I think it's pretty solid.
It sounds like a standard meta team at this point.
I think that's like just the top 6 performing Pokemon. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think.
Hey, what's the phrase? Meta's meta for a reason?
Meta's meta for the reason, yeah.
Who even said that?
Mason.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's that? Never heard of him.
Yeah, I don't know. Just some scrub.
Just some guy who's always eating on stream.
I'm not even eating. Oh, lady friend's eating ice in the background. My bad.
How do you eat ice? Monster.
Sorry. I'll mute myself.
It is a little weak to Quag, though, don't you guys think?
Yeah, you're relying on Quagsire not to have Sludge Bomb, but then your Quagsire wins the mirror if it's Earthquake, or if it has Earthquake, you're trying to rely on Hydro Pump from the Azumarill. So it depends on the movesets, definitely.
But he has an answer to each.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if he says he doesn't have a good Quagsire. So if he doesn't find one, I would immediately sub in Blastoise. Just no questions. Because that would
Quag?
shake up your... If he can't find a good Quagsire. If he just doesn't find one.
No, I think I would still run Quagsire and sub Blastoise in for Azumarill.
Then you're weak to the anti flying, because Blastoise is only so versus most of the flyers.
But he has Raichu still.
True, he does. I don't know, I just... Without a good Quagsire, and that depends on what he means by doesn't have a good Quagsire. Is it high IV, or is it not powered up, so to speak?
Well, if it's not powered up, then that's a problem, and he needs to probably drop it or power it up. But I think if it's bad IVs, that's still fine. Like,
yeah, you just might lose a few close matchups that Quagsire would otherwise win.
yeah, but I don't know, I just think Quagsire is good enough and covers so many things that I'd be more willing to accept losing a couple close matchups than I would to just drop it completely.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on just how bad his Quagsire is, so to speak.
Yeah, I think the Quagsire teams I've seen, or the Quagsire-less teams that I've seen, have rock coverage with like Magcargo or something, so they just kind of make it work there. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable just dropping it outright for a Blastoise in this context.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page with AJ here. Alright, anything else on Brady Shady's team, or should we move on?
Yeah, it just seems so default meta that there's probably not a whole lot of new.
Yeah, I agree. I think. I don't know, I still think that maybe dropping a Azumarill for Blastoise might be a good play, but
This was the second to last team, or are we doing a few more?
we're doing Choose Masters, and then we're gonna break down Beagold's
Okay.
interesting.
I had a question come up on the live stream chat from JREC Wolf.
Yeah.
About swap or using Politoed as some of the Quagsire coverage. I'd say that, you know, Politoed can do some of what Quagsire does, but not all of it. And then it is pretty good in some other matchups where Quagsire isn't like straight up amazing. I think you still need to have your rock coverage elsewhere to make Politoed work and drop Quagsire. So it just kind of depends on what the rest of your team is. But
Yeah,
I tried using Toad and Quag for a while, and I ended up being weak to some random stuff. I think I ended up being weak to Mantine at one point.
Yeah, that's the big one you lose, is you're weak to Mantine. And the other thing with Politoed is you kind of need that legacy version if you're trying to replace Quag, because the legacy is Earthquake. So if you're trying to sub in for Quag, then you need that Earthquake coverage. Running a non-legacy with Surf and Blizzard isn't really mimicking Quagsire at all anymore.
Right. Well, Toad beats Magneton. It doesn't straight up beat. Oh, I see what you're saying, Gods.
Yeah, in like a straight fight, Toad is almost as good as Quagsire, and I liked the idea of bringing Toad and Quagsire, but this is such a diverse meta, I don't think you can specialize too much.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, and it's like the double flyers work because you get a different coverage. You're just not getting basically a second coverage. And as much as like Quagsire is the meta threat, it's not so centralizing that you can afford having two on your team. It's not a Skarmory from Builder, basically.
Right. Alright, and then the last team is Choose Masters team, Quagsire, Kingdra, Tentacruel, Victreebel, Executor, Ninetales.
So I'm just gonna say Choose loves his Acid Spray a lot. Like a lot. Because he was one of the big proponents of Acid Spray in Tempest. Or was it Tempest?
Oh right, this is a triple Acid Spray team, huh?
Yep. And it can do some work. I've seen people do some really nice things with heavy hitting fast moves to Acid Spray and then switch and farm with your fast moves.
Here's my problem with the team. Yeah, here's my problem with the team is how is he dealing with flying types? Like, how is he dealing with a Mantine?
Prey.
I guess Kingdra, kind of.
Was someone saying something and cut out?
Yeah, they must have, but I don't know who.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mantine and Charizard seem like really safe picks, even though Ninetales can do some work against it. Quagsire with the Acid Spray set does do well versus Charizard if it gets the bait. If it doesn't, then it doesn't do that well. A 2-shield from Charizard can win.
Right. Yeah, I feel like if just dropping Kingdra, because I'm not really sure what Kingdra's needed for here. You know, dropping Kingdra for an electric, I think would do a lot of help for this team.
Yeah, agreed there. In the electric, even a Spark Chew, because you have Acid Spray, so Spark will hit even harder.
Yeah.
And you don't fear grass at all.
Ooh,
because
that's a good idea. Spark Chew is interesting. What about like a Spark Magneton? That hit pretty hard too.
if you got one with Legacy Discharge, I'd go for
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'd at least test it, see what happens. You
Yeah,
do
'cause-
exacerbate your Charizard weakness at that point, though.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, because the other problem I'm seeing running the Kingdra is he has Kingdra, Victory Bell, and Executor that all get walled by Fortress.
Does Tentacruel do well versus Fortress with Acid Spray? I don't know.
I don't know that much.
I know the Hydro Pump can kill, but I don't. Could it kill before Earthquake did? I mean,
Right, so it just seems like it's a little reliant on Ninetales to deal with an opposing Fortress. So
Although
that's
I
a-
will say, Kingdra, you know, with the Dragon Breath, I think that's part of the strategy. Is acid spraying something using Kingdra to hit something hard.
That's
in
true, that
combination.
makes sense.
So it looks like Acid Spray does nothing to help the Fortress set, except let Hydro Pump come out a little faster. Because Hydro Pump does basically enough to almost KO. After an Acid Spray, it's 120. Before the Acid Spray, it's 80, which is 3/4 of Fortress's hit points.
Right, yeah, I see what you're saying now, AJ, where I think the goal is to use the Dragon Breath from Kingdra and the Razor Leaf from Victory Bell after something has been acid sprayed. But
Yeah,
I just feel like it's too weak to flying.
I'd
and
rather
also-
rely on Spark over Dragon Breath, because you have Confusion, and Confusion is going to hit really hard after an Acid Spray.
That's true. Yeah.
I like the idea, is because you've got Fire Spin, you got really strong moves that do a lot of damage and would just get wrecked even more with a
Yeah.
with a
Yeah,
debuff.
I think swapping Kingdra out for a Spark Raichu would be the way to go then.
He said his mic isn't working, and that his team is a work in progress, and he's toyed with Feint Attack, Ninetales, and substituting that, or Execute with Fortress.
I don't know
So-
if either of those is necessarily needed. I think the Fire Spin damage, like we said, is solid from Ninetales. And Executor has that Confusion damage, which hits hard and will hit even harder after an Acid Spray.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure Fortress really helps against. I mean, like we said, the problem is Flyers, which Fortress doesn't necessarily help with. So I really think that if I had to make one change, it would be Kingdra to Raichu.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Although maybe Tentacruel, you know, because you still do have those two acid sprayers. You could just drop Tentacruel and get that electric coverage elsewhere.
That's true, yeah. If you drop Tentacruel for an electric, then he can still keep that Dragon Breath from Kingdra. And he's saying Kingdra was mainly there as a good neutral coverage with a fast move. And also quick fast moves ramp up faster with Acid Spray. And then he said Fortress was there because Confusers can take out all of his Acid Spray guys.
Yeah, that'd be a good point, because if he switches to an electric, the only Confuser he beats is Slowbro and Slowpoke. The other two, he gets walled by.
Yeah. Like, I see the validity to the acid spray strategy, but do you really need 3 to do that, to execute that effectively? You know,
I mean, I
possibly
think
2 is enough.
I think his idea is that he has a variety of options so that he can pick the acid sprayer that fits best against the opposing team, or maybe even bring 2 in a trio if that's what he wants. But I agree with you. I think cutting from 3 to 2 sprayers might be the way to go.
Yeah, I think Quagsire and Victory Bell are strong enough on their. That
he
is
said
true.
he said the trio makes it so you can't counter all 3 with any one mon, and that Victory Bell barely gets an acid spray out. So
Yeah, that
Victory
was-
Bell is less of a pure sprayer and more of that razor leaf damage after something else used an acid spray.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that it was unlikely to get acid spray most of the time earlier.
Yeah.
Just because of the speed from Razor.
He's talking about Quillfish instead of Tentacruel because of the fast move damage.
That's interesting. Quill has less bulk though, so that's the only thing.
Yeah, I'd rather have Tentacruel at that point over a Quillfish. Because I think
Yeah,
Quillfish just doesn't do well versus grass, where Tentacruel can. It has that poison fast move damage on grass to put him on a timer.
Right. Yeah, I think that. I mean, I like the idea. It's just my biggest concern is flying types. And then, like he said, I think the second biggest concern is confusion users against his acid sprayers. So, I don't know. I think it might need some tweaking, but it's definitely interesting, and I like when people try things that are a little bit different.
So do we have the propaganda team yet? Is that what's
yeah.
up next?
Wait, can I introduce that then?
Well, I just want to give a disclaimer here. You know, the views of this person are not shared by anyone else. What he's about to say is not condoned really or accepted, and we will do our due diligence in roasting him afterwards. Anyway,
Afterwards, I thought we were just going to straight
get
up
it out of the way
roast him.
first. Get it out of the way now.
I don't think he gets to talk about it. I think we just get to straight roast it and then end the stream.
And I just realized he has his Gen 3 Pokemons in here, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's not the team. I don't know who put that in there, but that's not my team member.
He's also a cheater? Unbelievable.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Oh, come on. You knew that from like 4 streams ago, remember? My rank wasn't high
What did
enough,
you
so
pick?
I was deemed a cheater.
What did you pick? That was Gen 3.
I think
Ludicolo
somebody
and
put in
Lombre.
Ludicolo on there. No, I didn't enter that. That was in there
Unbelievable.
when somebody added into the sheet. Tristan.
That wasn't me. I
Okay,
haven't
well,
touched the sheet.
okay, well, it wasn't me either.
Oh, that was me. I just put in that for. I thought you guys deleted it. Like, oh, I put that when the sheet was empty.
Yeah, and then I added in everything instead. Anyways, a little bit of backstory for why I want to run a full water team.
Because you're a water fanboy. Okay, good talk.
Okay, a little more backstory besides 2 words.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Good night, everybody.
Because myself and 10 others actually set up an entire gym system in Montreal, and we each elected somebody as a gym leader with a specific type. So I decided to choose water because it had the most diversity and just most possible options, because we'd run blind 3s as the actual teams. So with my water choices, I built up, I think it's closing in on 35 or even 40 different potential water types throughout all of Great League right now. And with Rainbow Cup, with any cup that was announced, I was waiting for water to be introduced. So that way I can just run a full water squad, partially for the memes, partially just go into that whole gym leader vibe of it. So I was trying to build a team 6 that's the most viable for Rainbow, that handles most counters. So Quagsire is a must. Lantern is also a must. Then I was considering Mantine. Lapras is 4th. Go through my list now. Kingdra would be there for either neutral damage, Azumarill for the tankiness. I could have run also. Hang on, let me just go back into my list. You know what? You guys have a little break now. Roast me. Go for it.
Wait, so what was the 6?
I'm trying to figure out my 6. Hang on. 'Cause I've been toying with a bunch of different options.
All right, I'm gonna roast this. I think there's too much water.
Was it? Well, you can't really roast water. You can only boil it.
One word.
Actually, I've seen
Blossom.
people boil pots.
Well, yeah, that's my friend too. She actually melted a pot.
But yeah, what Razor Leaf is just gonna eat your team alive. Even your Wing Attack Mantine will take heavy damage from a Razor Leafer. A pure electric, you're gonna have to use Quagsire. So electric and Razor Leaf, and your team's just done. I don't even need a third.
Okay, well,
I
outside
think
of
that your team is weak to electric and grass type damage.
you don't say.
Right? Who knows? Who would have thought a pure water was weak to the two things water's weak to? I get it, but in a real actual match, I think you're just gonna struggle against grass and electric. I mean, obviously, but it's gonna be hard to take.
Who would have guessed? Oh,
Wait, can you say that again?
blindside.
Point there.
Yeah, Gus, can you say that again? I need to take notes.
Oh, sure, yeah. So water is weak to grass and electric, and a full team just has to watch out for steel, because clearly that's the strong.
Yes. Okay, well, I guess the team that I was considering was Quagsire, Lantern, Mantine, Lapras, Slowpoke or Slowbro, and then one of either Poliwrath, Kingdra, or Tentacruel. So I was trying to cover as much as possible, and the whole point was the Confusion user in there, barring Blossom, would handle most Razor Leafers. I mean, obviously not solo, but you chip away at that. You chip away with also Tentacruel. Mantine handles it. Lapras can handle them. Lantern kind of gets stonewalled, as does Quagsire.
Lapras doesn't really handle Razor Leafers.
No, but I'm saying if I take out enough of a Razor Leafer with one, because I'm running pure water, I know that I expect either a grass or an electric each time, maybe even doubling up if they have. So that way I can kind of take 1.5 out of my own, just to take out their biggest threat. Then once that's done, usually people aren't going to run double grass against me or double electric, because most teams don't really cover that. So once I get the biggest threat out of the way, whatever I have left, do some work.
Right, but if someone brings a Razor Leafer and an electric, and you're saying that a Razor Leafer is going to go through 1.5 of your Mons, and an electric is going to go through 1.5 of your Mons, well, that's all your Mons.
I never said an electric goes through 1.5. I'm saying.
No, but we did.
Razor. Okay, well, you can't just do math for me. Come on.
I mean, you're also
imagine.
really relying on perfectly lining up the right things. And I think if you guess the lead wrong, then it's just going to spiral out of control.
I mean, very realistically, is he thinking about running this for a rainbow? I mean, we haven't seen of all the types that are neglected, it's typically electric, and then I would say Razor Leafers are not as common due to just Venusaur in general with its poison subtyping.
Oh, for sure. Being Blossom weak is not a struggle for this team.
Right.
There's going to be 4 of us, maybe.
Yeah, that's also kind of why I'm playing it. Most people don't count for, because they're trying to build around Quag or Venu. So
I would maybe drop 1 of the water for a non-water, just 5 water.
What's the fun in that?
Yeah, what if you ran 5 waters in a forward trip?
What if you ran 5/6 of a marathon and then just quit?
You
I'd
did it.
still
That was
be
a
impressed.
participation award. And then also, I mean, just for fun, I've traded for a couple of weird legacy stuff. So I have 3 different legacy variants of Dugong, just for memes, honestly.
You should totally
dear
run
God.
that.
Yeah.
You should
but-
run Legacy Dugong, double Legacy Sea King.
I have a Poison Jab Seeking, not double legacy, but I have single, so I could run that. That is an option. I also
I
have
think if
Legacy
someone-
Blizzard Seadra.
I think if I did 2 matches with someone and then they changed their Legacy Sea King or Dugong from one legacy to another, I wouldn't even report it.
Yeah, but what if they beat you with that team?
Then I
then
would
you report it.
especially not report it.
Props to them, man.
Yeah, if I lose to a Legacy Sea King, I lose to a Legacy Sea King. That's it.
And also, I'm doing this because I'm going to try and do 3, maybe even 4 tournaments this month. So I'm trying to pick the smallest tournament or one that may only have 7 or 8 people and just run this for fun. 'Cause
Yeah, 7 is
obviously-
great. 7 is great for this team.
Oh, so it's not ranked. Yeah, I got it.
That's the joke.
Yeah, I said
Alright,
I can
guys.
count it up quick.
Guys, let's talk to all the people in Montreal and hype up Razorly first.
See, you do that,
Water
then I
God
just
is the best moveset on Quagsire.
I mean, I do have some options. I was considering just for fun, but I knew you guys were going to roast it, so it was... that was the whole point of this start.
I think it'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, I don't hate
Oh, it's
water, and Quad Water and Quint Water look really strong. Like I like what they can do. I don't think 6 Water is the way to go.
Oh, you want a real challenge, though? Run 6 Bug. You basically start at Fortress, you stop at Scizor, and that's about it. You have 2 options, then filler for the last 4.
You got Beedrill.
There's
You got,
Beedrill. Scyther.
Yeah, that's a third. Scyther, there you go.
Okay, fine, so 4.
Mothim? No, wait, not
Nope.
Mothim.
No, you gotta run Yandos
Venomoth?
or 5th, and then Venomoth or...
Ariados.
Right, so
Ariados
you're
got a lot of hype early. There you go. You can run that one.
I mean, I do have rank 26 one, but...
Hey, you gotta run Ledian.
No,
Ledian
no, you
has-
gotta run Butterfree.
Alright,
Fun
on
fact of the
that-
day.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was gonna read out the tournaments that this guy, Flood 8, my neighbor, and his friend do the, they like see which mons are performing and whatnot. Out of
Yeah.
52 winners and almost 500 competitors, not a single winner had no water Pokemon, and not a single winner, not a single person had 0. Not a single person only had 1, but 63.5% of the teams had 2 water Pokemon. And then 32.7% of the winning teams had 3 water Pokemon.
But how many winning teams had 6 water Pokemon?
It says 4 water, 3.8%, and after that, I don't think there's enough statistics for garbage.
Well, give me about 8 or 9 days, and I'll try and get you a first place.
So, what you're saying is we need to host tournaments, and not let the 6 Water team win, but let the 6 Water team win, just to flood and make everybody think 6 Water is the win.
If you want me to, I definitely will. It'll be fun. That's for sure.
Tell you what.
And that's when B Gold made 7 alts in his own Discord server.
No, it's
That's
6
the way
alts
to
in
do
my
it.
friend punching bag.
Alright, on that note, we should probably wrap up the stream unless there's any last remarks you guys want to make.
Well, we do have at least another 10 teams to review, so it's going to be something that we do either this week or next week, so look out for that. Otherwise, yeah, I think we can call it the end of stream here. Thanks for watching, everyone. The video will be up on Twitch for for 14 days, and it'll be up on YouTube in a few hours, and you can watch that whenever. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Actually, we do have one thing. I'm Quartz. I'm going to be doing a short stream later on, doing some battle scrims with the guys here. If you guys are interested, you can come join us over there. Yeah, otherwise, we'll see you next time.